My beloved child, there is a reason you found this message today. Out of all the voices you could have listened to, out of all the paths you could have taken, you arrived here for a purpose. And before we go any further, listen carefully. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Last night was not an ordinary night. While the world became quiet and many people drifted into sleep, someone remained lost in thought. Someone sat with memories they could not easily explain. Someone found themselves revisiting moments they thought they had already moved beyond. What happened in those silent hours may hold a meaning far greater than anyone realizes. The strange part is that this reflection did not arrive suddenly. It was building for a long time. Day after day, small reminders appeared. A familiar thought. A forgotten memory. A feeling that returned without warning. These moments seemed insignificant at first, but together they created a pattern. And last night, that pattern became impossible to ignore. Don't skip. Because what comes next may explain something you have been wondering about for a very long time. Imagine someone sitting alone, looking back over events they once overlooked. Imagine them realizing that certain moments carried more meaning than they originally believed. Imagine them understanding that some connections cannot simply disappear, no matter how much time passes. That realization can be powerful. It can arrive like a sudden flash of clarity. One moment everything seems ordinary. The next moment, everything looks different. And that is exactly why last night matters. Someone may have recognized a truth they had been avoiding. Not because they wanted to avoid it, but because they were not ready to face it. Yet readiness has a way of arriving when least expected. The remarkable thing about deep reflection is that it changes people. When someone spends enough time looking inward, they begin to see what truly matters. They begin to separate noise from meaning. They begin to recognize what deserves attention and what never deserved their energy in the first place. And according to the energy surrounding this message, that process may have begun last night. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because there is another detail that makes this story even more surprising. The reflection was not only about the past. It was also about the future. Questions appeared. Questions that demanded answers. Questions like, what if I have been looking at this the wrong way? What if there is more to this than I realized? What if an important chapter is not finished yet? These are not ordinary questions. These are the questions people ask when they stand at the edge of transformation. And transformation rarely announces itself loudly. Most of the time, it begins quietly. It begins in moments nobody sees. It begins in late-night thoughts. It begins in reflections that seem small but eventually change everything. Right now, you may be wondering why this matters to you. The answer is simple. Because every meaningful shift begins with awareness. The moment someone truly understands something, their actions begin to change. Their decisions begin to change. Their direction begins to change. And when direction changes, outcomes change too. That is why last night may have been far more important than it appeared. What looked like a simple moment of reflection may actually have been the beginning of something much larger. Don't skip. The most surprising part is still ahead. There are times when people carry feelings, thoughts, and realizations for so long that they become part of the background. They stop noticing them. They stop paying attention to them. Then one day, something happens. The background becomes impossible to ignore. The quiet thought becomes the loudest voice in the room. And suddenly, everything demands attention. That may be exactly what happened last night. A realization became impossible to silence. A truth became impossible to overlook. A question became impossible to avoid. And once that happens, change is never far behind. As you listen to these words, pay attention to what resonates with you. Pay attention to the feelings that rise within you. Sometimes the strongest messages are not the ones we hear with our ears. They are the ones we recognize deep within ourselves. Because this story is not only about someone else's reflection. It is also about the power of reflection itself. It is about what happens when people stop running from important questions. It is about what happens when clarity finally arrives. And clarity has a way of appearing exactly when it is needed most. So if you feel that something important is unfolding, trust that feeling. If you feel that a chapter is shifting, pay attention. If you feel that a revelation is drawing closer, remain open. Because last night may have been only the beginning. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The next part of this story reveals what that reflection may lead to, why certain memories return so strongly, and the surprising realization that could change everything. Here's part 2. Writing a variant equals document ID equals 58371. A remarkable detail is beginning to emerge, and this is where the story becomes even more fascinating. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Last night was not simply a moment of remembering. It was a moment of understanding. There is a difference. Many people remember things every day, but very few truly understand what those memories are trying to reveal. Yet during those quiet hours, someone may have reached a level of clarity they had never reached before. Imagine looking back at a journey and suddenly noticing a pattern that was invisible before. Imagine realizing that every coincidence, every unexpected event, every delay, and every surprise may have been connected in ways that were impossible to see at the time. That realization can change everything. And according to the message surrounding this moment, that is exactly what may have happened. Someone began connecting the dots. One memory led to another. One realization led to another. One unanswered question suddenly started revealing answers. Don't skip. Because what happened next is even more surprising. The more they reflected, the more difficult it became to ignore what was standing directly in front of them. Some truths are quiet. They do not shout. They do not demand attention. They simply wait. They wait patiently until the moment arrives when they can finally be understood. And last night may have been that moment. For a long time, there may have been uncertainty. Questions without answers. Thoughts without direction. Feelings without explanation. But suddenly, pieces began falling into place. Not all at once. Not dramatically. But clearly. And clarity is powerful. Because once someone sees something clearly, they can never return to seeing it the old way. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The most astonishing part is that this reflection may have revealed more than just memories. It may have revealed purpose. Think about that for a moment. What if someone suddenly realized that certain experiences were never random? What if they recognized that every challenge taught a lesson? What if they discovered that every delay carried a hidden reason? What if they finally understood why certain events unfolded exactly as they did? That kind of realization changes a person from the inside out. It creates a new perspective, a new awareness, a new understanding of what truly matters. And once that awareness arrives, the future begins to look different. The road ahead becomes clearer. Decisions become easier. Confidence begins to grow. That is why last night matters so much. Because reflection is often the first sign of transformation. Before a new chapter begins, there is usually a moment of deep thought. Before a breakthrough appears, there is usually a moment of understanding. Before a door opens, there is usually a moment when someone realizes they are standing in front of it. Don't skip. The next revelation may be the one that surprises you most. There is a powerful feeling surrounding this message. A feeling that something unfinished is moving toward completion. A feeling that something overlooked is about to receive attention. A feeling that something important is drawing closer. Many people spend years searching for signs while missing the ones already around them. But last night may have been impossible to ignore. The signs became clearer. The message became stronger. The understanding became deeper. And that changes everything. Because awareness creates movement. Movement creates change. And change creates new possibilities. If you are still listening, then this message may be reaching you for a reason. Pay attention to the moments that stand out. Pay attention to the thoughts that return repeatedly. Pay attention to the feelings that refuse to disappear. Sometimes those are not interruptions. Sometimes they are invitations. Invitations to notice something important. Invitations to understand something meaningful. Invitations to step into a new chapter. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because the next part reveals the unexpected discovery hidden inside that reflection, the reason certain thoughts became impossible to ignore, and the powerful realization that may shape everything that comes next. Writing, variant equals, document, ID equals, 61482, now the story reaches a turning point, and this is where everything begins to feel different. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Last night was not only about reflection. It was about discovery. There comes a moment in every journey when a hidden truth rises to the surface. Not because someone goes looking for it, but because it is finally ready to be seen. And according to the energy surrounding this message, that moment may have arrived. Someone may have realized that what they were searching for was never as far away as they believed. For a long time, attention may have been focused on distractions, uncertainties, and unanswered questions. But during those quiet hours, something shifted. The noise became quieter. The thoughts became clearer. The picture became sharper. And when that happened, an extraordinary realization began to form. The realization that some things never truly disappear. Some memories remain alive. Some lessons remain important. Some connections remain meaningful. And some thoughts return because they still have something important to teach. Don't skip. Because the next part may explain why this reflection feels so powerful. Imagine sitting in complete silence and suddenly understanding something that had confused you for months. Imagine seeing a pattern that was hidden in plain sight. Imagine recognizing that certain events were leading toward a lesson all along. That kind of understanding can feel overwhelming in the best possible way. It feels like finding the missing piece of a puzzle. It feels like opening a door that was always there but never noticed. It feels like stepping into a room filled with answers. And that may be exactly what happened. The more someone reflected, the more they realized that the past was not merely a collection of memories. It was a collection of clues. Clues pointing toward a larger understanding. Clues pointing toward a deeper meaning. Clues pointing toward a truth that was waiting patiently to be discovered. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because what happened next may be the most surprising part of all. Instead of looking backward, the reflection began looking forward. The focus changed. The questions changed. The perspective changed. What once seemed impossible began to feel possible. What once seemed uncertain began to feel clearer. What once seemed distant began to feel closer. That shift matters. Because every major transformation begins with a shift in perspective. When perspective changes, possibilities appear. When possibilities appear, hope grows. When hope grows, new chapters begin. And right now, the signs suggest that a new chapter may already be forming. A chapter built on understanding rather than confusion. A chapter built on awareness rather than uncertainty. A chapter built on clarity rather than doubt. Don't skip. The next revelation is something very few people expect. There are moments when life quietly prepares a person for something greater. Not through dramatic events. Not through loud announcements. But through small realizations that gradually become impossible to ignore. Last night may have been one of those moments. A moment when someone realized how much they had learned. A moment when someone realized how much they had grown. A moment when someone realized that they were no longer the same person they once were. Growth often happens so slowly that it goes unnoticed. Until suddenly it becomes impossible to miss. And when that realization arrives, everything begins to look different. Opportunities look different. Choices look different. The future looks different. That is why this reflection carries so much importance. It was not simply about remembering. It was about awakening to a deeper understanding. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because there is still one final piece of this puzzle. The strongest message surrounding this reflection is this. What was discovered last night was not meant to stay hidden. The understanding gained during those quiet hours was meant to create movement. It was meant to inspire action. It was meant to open a new door. And once a door is opened, the journey can never return to where it started. So if you feel that something important is unfolding, trust that feeling. If you sense that clarity is growing, pay attention. If you feel that a major realization is drawing closer, remain open. Because the next part reveals the final breakthrough, the meaning behind the deepest realization of all, and the astonishing conclusion that ties everything together in a way few people ever expect. Writing, variant equals, document, ID equals, 73194, the final piece of this story is here, and what you are about to hear brings everything together. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. All through this journey, one question has remained. Why was last night so important? The answer is more powerful than most people expect. Because last night was not about what was lost. It was not about what was missed. It was not about what could have been. It was about what was finally understood. And understanding changes everything. There comes a rare moment when a person stops looking for answers everywhere else and begins finding them within. That moment is unforgettable. That moment becomes a turning point. That moment becomes the beginning of a completely different chapter. And according to the message surrounding this story, someone may have reached that moment last night. For a long time, pieces of the puzzle existed separately. Questions existed without answers. Thoughts existed without direction. Feelings existed without clarity. But during those quiet hours, something extraordinary happened. The pieces began fitting together. Not perfectly. Not instantly. But clearly enough to reveal a truth that could no longer be ignored. Don't skip. Because this revelation may be the biggest one yet. Someone may have realized that the journey itself was creating the answer. Every lesson mattered. Every challenge mattered. Every unexpected turn mattered. Even the moments that seemed confusing carried value. And once that realization appeared, the entire picture changed. What once felt random suddenly made sense. What once felt uncertain suddenly carried purpose. What once felt unfinished suddenly revealed progress. That is why this reflection feels so significant. Because it was not simply a reflection. It was a breakthrough. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Now imagine this. Imagine looking back and realizing that every step forward had quietly prepared you for the present moment. Imagine discovering that your greatest growth happened when you did not even notice it. Imagine recognizing that the answers you searched for were slowly forming all along. That realization is powerful. Because it replaces doubt with understanding. It replaces confusion with clarity. It replaces uncertainty with confidence. And confidence creates movement. Movement creates opportunity. Opportunity creates new beginnings. This is where the story reaches its most surprising conclusion. The reflection of last night was not only about the past. It was preparing someone for the future. A future viewed through new eyes. A future approached with greater wisdom. A future built upon everything that has been learned. And that changes everything. Because when awareness grows, possibilities grow with it. When understanding deepens, new paths appear. When clarity arrives, the next step becomes easier to see. Don't skip. The final message is the one most people need to hear. Sometimes the greatest revelation is not discovering something new. Sometimes the greatest revelation is finally understanding what was there all along. The signs. The lessons. The growth. The purpose. The progress. All of it was present. All of it was meaningful. All of it was leading somewhere important. And last night may have been the moment when that truth finally became impossible to ignore. So as this story comes to an end, remember this. Reflection creates awareness. Awareness creates understanding. Understanding creates transformation. And transformation creates new possibilities. The journey does not end with what was discovered last night. The journey begins there. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because the greatest chapter is never the one behind you. It is the one that opens after clarity arrives. And for someone who reflected deeply last night, that chapter may already be beginning.